All right. Hi, students. I want to give a warm welcome to my good friend. Her name is also Melissa Allen. I'm so excited to have her here. I've been trying to get her to come to my class to be a guest speaker, but she is a busy, busy person. So now we get to do it from our houses, and it's great. So welcome, Melissa. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having
Um,
me.
yeah. So you already know about the students and the classes. I already gave her that spiel. Do you want to start with what your role is currently, and what do you, a little bit about what you do?
Okay. So my official title is Parent Education Instructor. I work for Mount Diablo Unified School District, and for a portion of the district that's under the umbrella of adult education. And with the adult education department, I do lots of things. It's part of the public school system, so I teach some evening parenting classes, and those parenting classes are mainly for people that have been court ordered to take parenting classes.
Mhm.
I've also recently started teaching some anger management classes through that too. I During the school year, I teach a cooperative preschool class. So it's considered an adult ed class because the parents are officially the ones enrolled as a student,
Mhm.
and they have to work in the classroom once a week and attend monthly meetings and things just like they would at any other cooperative school. But because it's through the school district, it's free, which is great. And then I also teach a bunch of other really random little things like parent and teen drug and alcohol workshops and parent and teen anger management workshops. Right now I'm doing some parent education workshops for distance learning for the district as well.
Mhm.
So all sorts of things.
Like I said, busy. You also have two young children of your own at home.
Mhm.
Um, can you share a little bit about how you came into this field and specifically your role that you're in now?
Mm. So, um, well, starting from the beginning, I've pretty much always worked with kids, basically since I was a kid myself. All the things like camp counselor and teaching kids classes at church and being a teacher's aide and all sorts of things. And then I got my degree from San Francisco State in child development, and I've been teaching preschool since then. Um, I don't remember when that was, maybe 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Uh, Time flies, especially when you have kids, you start losing track of everything.
Yes.
um, but this job, I I've always wanted to work with parents more,
Mhm.
and start working more with adults. And I was looking for a job after I had my second child, after we moved to the East Bay from San Francisco. And I just saw parent education instructor, and I didn't really know what it was until I went in and they told me it was a cooperative preschool class.
Mhm.
And, a few years ago, before I had my kids of my own, I probably would have been terrified of the idea of working in a cooperative parent preschool environment, but it's really fantastic. I love it.
Awesome. Can you share a little bit more about like exactly what you do in the cooperative classroom, and what it looks like? I think that, a lot of people can guess, even if they've never been a preschool teacher or a teacher, what that looks like.
Mhm.
Um, but it looks very different in a co-op classroom. So can you share a little bit about that, and specifically how you work with the parents and how
Mhm.
that looks different?
Yeah, so um, my class is 3 days a week. So each parent has to sign up for one day a week that they work in the classroom. And I'm the head teacher, and then they kind of take on the role as an assistant teacher while they're there.
Mhm.
So when they show up, They help set up the classroom. I let them know what kind of activities we're going to do that day or what we're focusing on. I give them a specific task as well. Each parent has kind of a station that they'll be in charge of. So I have to explain what they're going to do with the kids there. Whether it's you're going to play bingo with a group of kids today, or you're going to work on these puzzles, or you're going to be in charge of doing watercolor painting. I kind of give them their role. And it requires a lot of, coaching. A lot of parents are really nervous about being in charge of something. How do I teach a kid how to play bingo? That's not what I do. So, you really have to build up their self-esteem with that. Some parents are a lot more ready to jump in because they're used to playing a lot at home with their kids. Other ones aren't, and they need a lot more guidance and just kind of somebody to believe in them and to let them know it's okay if it doesn't work. At the end of the day, this is all learning experience for all of us. We all come here and learn together. So if it doesn't work, we learned something, right? And that's okay. Sometimes I do things as a teacher that I think are going to work, and then you're like, wow, that was a flop. So it's okay. It was a learning experience. And so they just kind of support what I do for the most part. At the end of the day, they help clean up, we have parent meetings where they come in and we talk about different things, whether it's child nutrition or the ASQ, the Ages and Stages questionnaire that we have them fill out. So we'll have a meeting on that, and we connect them with our community partners that help us with that. All sorts of things.
Yeah. That's awesome that you guys get the time after to meet and discuss different things. I'm sure that it helps their parenting and their confidence so much more, having that opportunity to talk.
Yeah, and that's part of the goal with the program is also to help empower our parents into realizing how they can be this positive influence on their children's schooling, how they do have the tools that they need to support their kids in school. A lot of parents think I don't know how to do math. I can't help my kids with that. But they just need somebody to kind of show them you do, a lot more than you think that you do. And so you can support your kids in this.
Can you share, you've shared a lot of positive aspects of working with the families in the classroom. I'm sure there's some challenges. Do you mind sharing? You can either share a specific story that jumps out of a challenging moment, which I always like to say is a learning opportunity, or just generally, some challenges that you find that you come across.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, one of my biggest challenges is finding that line between being a partner with them and not crossing over into that friendship area. Because as much as I want to be their friend, because, they're great people and I know their kids, and then I have kids the same age, so I can really relate to where they are in life. If you're not too careful to keep that boundary, then some of their roles can start to slip, right? They might become too comfortable and think oh, I can be half an hour late to my work day. It's fine. Melissa she's nice. She'll be fine with it. So I've had to learn, how to keep those bounds of having a relationship and being friendly, but not making them think that means that I'm not taking it seriously. Because I've definitely had parents that, last year we had to remove a parent from the program because they were missing their work days and late to pick up their kid a lot. And because we are a free program, it's not like we can just charge a late fee or something like that. We have a very specific contract, and if you're not meeting these needs, and you've had too many warnings, then the only thing we can really do is remove you, which we don't want to do because we really want to support the families in the community.
Right.
So that's one of my personal struggles that I am working through.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I can understand that boundary.
that's kind of a big one. And last year we also had a family that, they really wanted it to work for their kid. They really wanted him to be able to go to preschool. The school that I work at is a Title I school, so it's in a low-income area. A lot of the kids that in that area don't go to preschool, so this is like a really great opportunity, though of course it does have barriers because you have to be able to work in the classroom in order to have your kid go there, which doesn't work for every family. But I had a parent that was working the graveyard shift and also in school himself. And he was coming like straight from his graveyard shift to work in the classroom with his kid and barely able to keep his eyes open. And it was really rough, and we tried our best to support them. But then one day when he dropped off his kid, he totally overslept picking up his kid. And we called, and it was like an hour or two after he was supposed to pick up his kid and still wasn't waking up. So things like that, you encounter, which is hard because we really, his kid really could have benefited and the family, but it just wasn't something that was working for all the other things that they had going on in their life at the moment.
Yeah. How do you have, can you share any tips or strategies that you use when you have to have some of those more difficult conversations, either when a parent is consistently late, or I know something that I've had to grow in is when there's challenging behavior that's happening in the classroom. So all those hard conversations that you have to have with families.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. I think one of the biggest tips that I have is learning about positive communication and in particular reflective listening. So it's actually a tool that I teach in my parenting class and my anger management class because it's something that is super useful just in life with your own kids, with your spouse, with your coworkers, with the families you work with, where you're really listening to what they say and then rephrasing it back to them to make sure that you're fully understanding them, and also to help them feel really validated in where they're coming from. So showing them that you're really listening, saying something like, it sounds like what you're saying is it's been really difficult to be on time to pick up your child because you're so late or because you're so tired. Whatever it is that they're saying, reflecting that back to them really helps them to feel validated and heard. And that doesn't mean that you're giving them a free pass. Just because you understand and you empathize doesn't mean you're saying it's okay to do that and to not fulfill your part. But it really keeps that communication open when you validate how the other person is feeling, when you validate what's going on in their lives and saying that you really see them as people and what they're going through. Because there's a lot of barriers in life to doing what parents want to do for their kids. What I know is that all parents want their kids to succeed. They all want what's best for their kid. But there's a lot of things that can get in the way of making it so that they can make that happen.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the reflective listening tip. I like that one. Let's see. So one of the things that I find hard is to develop that trusting relationship in the very beginning of the year,
Mhm.
or the very beginning of your time with a family,
Mhm.
to then be comfortable enough to maybe have a difficult conversation.
Mhm.
So what are some of the strategies that you use when you first meet a family? You're just starting to get to know them and their child. How do you build that trust in the beginning?
Mhm. Well, I think I try to think of it as treating the adults the same way that you would their child.
Hmm.
So getting to know their name right away and using it, being on eye level with them when you talk to them,
Hmm.
um, smiling when they come in and greeting them. Um, and sometimes that requires putting away whatever happened in your morning that made you feel in a funk, and letting that go. Um, and I and now that I'm a parent, I really see this, and I've experienced this from the parent side of things, like dropping off my own son at preschool when his teacher is acting different one day. I start to think like, is it is she upset about something I did as a parent? Is there something
Hmm.
going on? What's happening? So being aware that um, the parents really look to the teacher to see their cues about how the relationship is, and how things are going for their child. That we really have to be aware of what messages we send with
Hmm.
our tone of voice and our facial expressions and our body. So really being sure to make the parents feel really welcome, and part of the community. So that's one thing. Um, Another thing is just really getting to know the family and what their hopes are for their child's education. Um, whether you are having a back to school night and you have all the parents, fill out something where they're writing about their hopes for their child's school year, or maybe you're meeting one on one with them or doing a home visit. But whenever you can, really trying to understand, like, why are you sending your child to school? Putting them in care?
Hmm.
What's your goal for your child? What are you hoping that they get out of this experience?
Hmm.
And not just listening to that, so that they feel heard, but actually taking that information and figuring out how you can make that happen in your program. Um, how can we meet the goals and the needs of this family? Um, Not just listening to it to like give yourself a little pat, like, yeah, I heard them, good for me,
Right. Right.
but really actually implementing that and seeing how you can meet the needs of each specific family.
Hmm. Can you share some of the, I'm like curious to hear some of the goals um, that you maybe can you share one that was easy to
Mm,
meet and implement, and then one that you're like, oh, this is going to be a little bit of a brain challenge?
mm. Right. Um, so last year I had one parent say that they really wanted their child to come to school to make friends. Right.
Hmm.
So you're like, okay, yeah, we can totally handle that. We can support your child in making friends and teaching them social skills. This was a child who spent most of her time at home with her mom. And so just didn't really have a lot of peer interactions before,
Hmm.
and was kind of shy and timid when she first started. So, but that as a preschool teacher, you're like, well, I've got that. That's, what we
Hmm.
do. Um, but then, I had parents of 3-year-olds saying they wanted their child to learn to write their name,
Hmm.
and you're like, okay, well, yes,
Very
that's,
specific.
that's a great goal to have.
Hmm.
But we also have to keep in mind that your child's 3 and they just might not be ready this year, right?
Right.
Um, so, you're trying to bring what you know about kids and their development, um, and what parents really want for their kids. So what you see in that, you're seeing, I want my child to write their name, but what's really under that is
Hmm.
that they really want their child to have those academic things ready, those things that they feel like they don't know how to teach their child to do, to have them ready for kindergarten. So that's kind of like what it sounded like was hiding under the surface there,
Right.
was that she wanted to make sure her child had the skills that she needs. So that meant, like breaking it down for her and talking about, what we are doing to prepare them for writing their name.
Mm-hmm.
Really showing them that, we are working towards this goal. It might not happen right now, but this is definitely, we're working together to reach this goal.
Right. Yeah, I like that. You're kind of like a detective sometimes.
And that's, and that I feel like that's the same thing we do with kids, right? When we see misbehavior with kids, we're detectives and we try to figure out, why is this happening? What's going on underneath? And I think we have to do the same thing with parents, is we really have to play that detective and try to understand what's going on for them, what their perspective is, instead of just jumping in with assumptions.
Right. Yeah. I can definitely remember times where parents like assumed that maybe I was going to be, like butting heads with them or disagreeing from the very beginning because of a previous experience that they had, with a teacher, that it's like, my way is the highway, what I say is the right way, when it's really, it's not how it works.
Yeah. And I think part of what I really learned through this role is about looking deeper at people's families' cultures, because in different cultures, the role of a parent and teacher can look a lot different.
Yes.
In the culture that I grew up in, it was like parents can challenge the teacher and kind of push the teacher into doing what they want, and then the teacher fights back, and it's like this, kind of can be a kind of a contentious relationship.
Right.
In other cultures, though, they really revere the teacher and see them as somebody who knows a lot, and so the parents are careful really not to step on the teacher's toes. They're worried about overstepping their bounds. I can't teach my child that. I'm not a teacher. You're the teacher. That's your job. So it's important to understand, the dynamics of what it might look like in a different culture, that it's not always what we grew up with.
Yeah, definitely. And being aware of first how you, grew up and how you might see that relationship differently.
Yeah.
That's from somebody else.
Right. Being aware of your own lens first.
Right. All right. Well, I just want to wrap up with one last question. It's kind of a broad question, so I'll let you go for it. But anything you want to share with students that are just starting out in this field? Any, advice or little nuggets of, tips and strategies?
Well, I'll share from my own experience because, I started teaching long before I was a parent. And I'm a parent now of a 2-year-old and an almost 5-year-old. And things have definitely changed in the way that I teach since I had kids. So before, I always like to say that I was a really great parent before I had kids. I knew everything. I was like, I have a degree in child development. I've been teaching preschool. And I was pretty quick to judge parents and the way that they would handle things or respond to their kids or the things that they would do, because I just had never experienced it myself. And it's so different when it's your own child than it is with someone else's child. I have endless patience for the children in my class. My own children, they know those buttons, and there's that biological emotional connection that makes emotions triggered so much faster and so much stronger with your own kids. And so that's one piece that I think my feelings about how much I knew got in the way of relationships with parents in the past, because I was quick to offer advice when it wasn't asked for. I let myself, judge parents for being late to pick up their kids or things. And I was notoriously last minute picker upper of my son from preschool, like soaking up every minute I could of like going to the grocery store by myself before running extremely fast to go get my kid from school. Because there's just life is so different once you have a child than before. And I honestly was knocked off my feet when I had kids of my own. So that's one thing that I would just really encourage teachers to give parents the benefit of the doubt. Always assume that they have their children's best interest in heart, no matter what's going on. They have their reasons for things that they do, and it might be something that you never understand. But that's what I know to be true. Even parents that come to my parenting class because their children have been removed from their home, they want desperately to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing? How do I get my child back, do what's best for them? There's a lot of layers in life. So that would, always assume that, and take that strength-based approach with families where you're really looking at what they have to offer as a family, because every family has its own strengths, instead of a deficit view where you're looking at families from what they're missing that you have to offer. Because when you're partnering with them, everybody should be really, their strength should be lifted up, instead of saying, what can I do for you?
Right.
What are you missing? Where can I fill your gaps? It's, let's bring out your strengths. Let's see those great qualities that you guys have and how we can use those.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
You're gonna make me tear up, Melissa. So good. All right. Well, thank you so much again. And I'm so happy that this worked out.
Yeah, anytime.
All right. I'm going to press stop recording now.
Okay.